The church buried Jesus' real teachings, because if you knew them, you wouldn't need the church. Jesus had secrets, major ones. He wasn't about building churches, collecting donations, or making people blindly obey religious leaders. He was about something way bigger, something that made the religious elite shake in their fancy robes. That's why his real teachings got buried, twisted, and rewritten into what most Christians believe today. 1. Jesus didn't come to create a new religion. Jesus wasn't interested in starting a new religion. He was interested in transforming people's hearts and minds. His message was not about adhering to a set of rigid rules or dogmas, but about cultivating a deep, personal relationship with the divine. In fact, Jesus frequently butted heads with the religious leaders of his time, because they were more concerned with controlling people through elaborate rituals and regulations than actually helping them connect with God. He saw their focus on empty tradition and outward appearances as a distraction from the true spiritual work. Instead, Jesus taught that the kingdom of God was not some distant, exclusive club, but a state of being that could be accessed by anyone who had the courage to open their heart and mind. He spoke of a loving, compassionate God who wanted nothing more than to shower his children with blessings, if only they would trust and surrender to him. This radical message of unconditional love and inner transformation was a far cry from the legalistic, hierarchical religion that would later develop in Jesus' name. The church leaders who codified Christianity knew that keeping people dependent on their authority and sacraments was key to maintaining power. So they downplayed or outright suppressed Jesus' teachings about the accessibility of the divine. 2. Jesus taught the divinity in all of us. One of the most revolutionary aspects of Jesus' teachings was his insistence that the divine spark resides within each and every one of us. He didn't see God as some distant, unapproachable deity, but as a loving presence that was intimately connected to our own souls. In the Gospel of Thomas, a text that was excluded from the Bible, Jesus is quoted as saying, "I am the light that is above them all. I am the all. The all came forth from me, and the all attained to me. Cleave a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there." This radical notion of the immanence of the divine completely undermined the power structures of organized religion, which depended on people seeing God and the spiritual realm as separate from the physical world. If everyone had the capacity to directly access the divine within, then what need was there for priests, churches, and religious hierarchies? Jesus' teachings about the spark of divinity in all people were a profound challenge to the religious elite of his time. No wonder they felt threatened and worked so hard to suppress this message in the centuries that followed. 3. Jesus taught the importance of direct experience. In line with his emphasis on the divinity within, Jesus placed a strong emphasis on the importance of direct spiritual experience, rather than blind faith or obedience to external authorities. He urged his followers to seek God not through elaborate rituals or the intermediaries of priests, but through inward contemplation, prayer, and the cultivation of their own intuition and inner wisdom. The Gospels recount numerous instances where Jesus chastised the Pharisees for their rigid adherence to tradition and rules, while ignoring the true spiritual work of cultivating self-awareness and connection with the divine. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus is quoted as saying, "If those who lead you say to you, 'See, the kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, 'It is in the sea,' then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is within you and it is outside you." This teaching flies in the face of the Church's emphasis on obedience to ordained clergy and on questioning belief in dogma. Jesus was adamant that each person had the capacity to directly experience the sacred without needing to go through the approved channels of priests, rituals, and sacraments. No wonder the early church fathers worked so hard to suppress texts like the Gospel of Thomas, which gave voice to Jesus' radical teachings about the accessibility of the divine. They knew that if people embraced this message, they would no longer need the church's intermediaries to access the sacred. 4. Jesus taught the importance of love and compassion. At the heart of Jesus' teachings was a radical message of love, compassion, and radical acceptance, not just for one's own tribe, but for all of humanity. He repeatedly challenged his followers to expand their circles of empathy and to see the divine spark in even the most marginalized and despised members of society. In the Gospels, we see Jesus constantly breaking social taboos and reaching out to those who were considered unclean or unworthy by the religious elite: lepers, sex workers, tax collectors, and other sinners. He treated them with the same love and respect that he showed to his closest disciples, refusing to judge or condemn them. This emphasis on unconditional love was a direct rebuke of the Pharisees' focus on strict adherence to the letter of the law. Jesus taught that true righteousness came not from external conformity, but from the cultivation of a loving, merciful heart. As he memorably said, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Matthew 5:44. The Church, however, has often struggled to fully embrace this radical message of love. Throughout history, Christians have all too frequently used their faith as a justification for intolerance, oppression, and even violence towards those who are different. The idea of extending compassion to all, regardless of their beliefs or status, has proven to be a challenging one for many in positions of religious authority. 5. Jesus taught the importance of inner transformation. Perhaps most importantly, Jesus' teachings were fundamentally about the inner transformation of the individual, not the outward observance of religious rituals and rules. He recognized that true spiritual growth and enlightenment could not be imposed from the outside, but had to emerge from a deep, personal process of self-discovery and awakening. In the Gospels, we see Jesus repeatedly emphasizing the importance of cultivating qualities like humility, forgiveness, non-judgmental, and a pure heart. He taught that it was not enough to simply follow a set of commandments, but that his followers had to undergo a radical shift in consciousness, a death of the ego and a rebirth of the spirit. This focus on inner work rather than outer observance was hugely threatening to the religious establishment of Jesus' time, as well as the church leaders who came after. After all, if spiritual growth and enlightenment were accessible to anyone who was willing to do the inner work, then what need was there for priests, churches, and rigid religious hierarchies? The Church, therefore, has often been more concerned with enforcing dogma and obedience than truly empowering people to undergo the kind of deep, transformative spiritual journey that Jesus taught. They have watered down his teachings, repackaged them into palatable sound bites, and used them to maintain power and control over the masses. But the true, radical message of Jesus, of the divinity within each of us, the importance of direct spiritual experience, and the transformative power of love and compassion remains as compelling and subversive as ever. It's a message that, if truly embraced, has the power to topple the very foundations of organized religion as we know it.